Back in the garage today. Back in the garage today. Get in the garage. Back in the garage today. What's going on, guys? Back in the garage today, getting ready to put a torque limiter on the starter assembly for my 2017 KTM 250 XCF. All right, so if you're wondering what a torque limiter is, it's it's a gear, and it basically has its own little clutch plates built into it, much like the clutch on your transmission. Over time, especially if you're not a very good rider and you stall out pretty often, so you're using that electric start, those clutch plates are gonna glaze over and they're just not gonna engage anymore. So you have to order the entire assembly. I'm gonna show you what it looks like, and then I'm gonna show you how to install one. All right, so in order to do this job, you definitely need the torque limiter, and I'm gonna show you the part number on there. This, again, is for a 2017 250 XCF. It's probably a good idea to get an ignition cover gasket. It's not gonna hurt to have one, but you probably could reuse yours. And I'm not sure if I'm gonna need this O-ring or not, but it's cheap enough and it's good to have just in case the one on there is damaged. So let's get to, actually, let me show you this real quick. So while you're probably not gonna wear out the teeth on this thing, if we get a close look there, you can kind of see the clutch plates built in. That's what I'm talking about. I'm guessing the ones on mine, there's probably no grip or friction left on them. So that's why I'm having a little bit of trouble getting the thing started. So we're gonna put this new one on and then we should be good to go. I don't know if you guys can see the water here on the floor. I did my best to sweep it up, but we had a little bit of freezing rain yesterday, so everything that stuck to my truck melted off. Anyway, first thing we need to do is, if you have a skid plate on your bike, is remove the skid plate. In my case, I believe this is two 8mm bolts. So we'll get this off of here first. And while this probably goes without saying, it is best to have the bike over on its side. You could lean it up against a bike stand, or in my case I just have it kind of leaned up against the lift here, because we want this over pretty much as flat as possible when we go to take the ignition cover off. So next up, we are going to remove the ignition cover. I believe there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 screws we're going to take out of here. They are all 8mm as well, so we're going to get this thing off. All right, so now with all of the screws removed, we are going to pop the cover off of here. You can do it without removing the shifter, you just have to be careful. And the gasket looks like it's in pretty good shape. Just going to be careful here. And we've got our alternator in there and everything else. We probably will reuse this gasket, as long as I don't tear it getting off the rest of the way, or we'll just leave it there. But we can get up here and get to our gear now. Alright, so if we look here, this is the torque limiter that I want to replace. It should just pop right off of there. Now pay attention to the orientation. The clutch plates are out this way. We're just going to slide it right off of there. It's pretty simple. All right, so this is our new torque limiter. We got to make sure we line up our teeth down here and also our teeth up here. So give me just a second. And you can see it went right back into place. I'm just going to keep the new gasket since this one's in great shape. There's no sense in replacing it, and get this popped back down. And you do have a little holder pin there that you can line up on the gasket to ensure that it stays in place. And then I'll give you the torque specs here in just a second, though I can tell you I'm just going to snug these bolts up. All right, so the torque specs for these bolts that are going to hold the ignition cover on are 10 Newton meters. Now my recommendation would be go ahead and put them in there. Make sure they're biting just by hand. And then you're going to do it in kind of a crisscross fashion. So I'll probably go here and then, you know, across the way to make sure that thing's good and sealed. And then we're almost done. Now, like I said, I decided not to use a torque wrench. We're just going to snug those things up because it's an aluminum engine and I don't want to strip anything out. Also, once you kind of crisscross hash them, you noticed I kind of went around in just a circle to make sure I didn't miss anything. Only other thing I really have left to do is put the skid plate back on, so let me do that real quick. All right, so with the skid plate back on, last thing I want to do is throw it up on the stand and test out this new torque limiter. This thing should fire up much quicker than it has been. All right, let's see how she does. It should be be noted, I didn't even choke the bike, which is kind of my fault because it's been sitting for weeks now, but it's still fired up pretty quick. Let's see how it does on choke. All right, guys, so pretty straightforward job to put one of those on. I mean, basically need an 8mm wrench or socket and the part. That's really all you need. Now, that is a replaceable part. I mean, and when I say replaceable, it's one of those usable things that is going to wear out on your bike, especially if you ride it a lot, especially if you use the starter on it a lot. If you stall out a decent amount, just plan on replacing it. It's not cheap. I think retail on that part's about $170. And I think I paid around $130 for it through Rocky Mountain ATV. So anyway, it isn't cheap. It's probably something you're going to replace every 2 to 3 years. Really kind of depends. But it's an easy job, so you can save your money on the labor if you've just got some simple hand tools around. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, consider hitting that subscribe button, because if you like motorcycles, well, this is the place to be. If you have any questions about that install today, let me know down in the comment section below. I'll do my best to answer them. And as always, talk to you again soon.